to provide what's called laminar flow, which is smoother air going over the engine and reducing any drag you might get from that as well. So that's another advancement made with this engine. But then it also goes inside the airplane, right? Looking at the flight deck. A lot was borrowed from 787 that I'll talk about in just a bit, where you have these very big displays up front. And a lot more has been digitized in the cockpit itself to assist the pilots up front in flying the airplane. And then you get to the Boeing Sky Interior, which brings me to the premium brand portion, right, of putting an airline on the path to success. With the Boeing Sky Interior in the 737 MAX, you get new lighting, refreshed lighting or dynamic lighting, which can help comfort passengers, right? If it's during the day or during takeoff or landing, when maybe you have all the lights on, you can get more dynamic lighting based on your airline and what color scheme you might want. But then, right, if it's at nighttime when you're flying and you want your passengers to comfortably sleep, you can change the mood lighting there, again, to enhance the passenger experience. But you also have things like larger overhead bins and pivot bins to save on space, but still to ensure that any passengers bringing baggage can fit all of that. And then I'll skip cabin flexibility for now. That really assists airlines in being operationally flexible, but can also help in improving the cabin experience or the passenger experience by bringing on new seats or new monuments, which are the things you would see at the front or the back of the airplane. But I really want to focus on the larger windows here as well, right? Because larger windows, why is that important? Well, if you have larger windows, that allows your passengers to better connect with the outside of the airplane, right? The stunning views that you might get outside of the airplane, now your passengers will have a better view of it. But again, during the day, you can bring in a lot more natural light that can help soothe passengers in flight as well. And so that's a big part of the premium brand portion that comes with the 737 MAX. And then just highlighting the range, right? Looking from Jakarta here, you can see the range capabilities of each of the aircraft in the family. Again, with the Dash 7 being able to fly quite far and maybe serving some of those less dense in terms of passenger demand routes. And then looking all the way down to the 737-10. Less range, but still good range for hitting a lot of airports throughout the region and being able to do so while accommodating a lot of passengers on the aircraft. And so, what does this look like when you plug in a lot of these advantages of this aircraft into the formula for success or path to success for airlines? Talking about innovative airplanes, you see about a 5% fuel efficiency gain. With the Boeing Sky Interior, you get a much more elevated experience for passengers such that they can fly more comfortably and more calmly. And these advantages associated with other operating cost advantages of the 737 MAX. For airlines, they can see up to 9% lower costs per seat, which is a truly huge advantage in what is an airline industry where they have razor-thin margins to operate. So that 9% can really go a long way in making a huge difference towards making airlines more profitable while having a premium brand experience. And now on to the 787, right? Our first wide body that we'll cover today. The 787 is a really unique aircraft in terms of its capability. I'll talk a lot about the amazing technology on it, but something I like to kick off with is the fact that it's opened 536 new routes since it entered into service, which I believe was 14 years ago now, which is truly incredible. And we highlight this because the fact that the 787 can open all these new routes speaks to the efficiency of the airplane. Preceding models or other comparable models aircraft might not have been able to fly these routes because they were prohibitively expensive. Airlines would have been flying them at a loss. And so because of that, they might not have been flying them, where there was otherwise demand, where there are otherwise passengers that wanted to get from point A to point B. But with the 787, because of its efficiency, you're able to profitably fly these routes as an airline. And so to date, it's opened 536 of them. And you can get an idea based on just how scattered this network map is in front of us. Much like the 737 MAX, we also like to highlight the customers for the 787. You can see here also spread out throughout the world and wide adoption of the airplane. Something specifically we like to highlight about our customers, though, is the broad acceptance of the family of aircraft between the 787-8, -9, and -10. You can see in this Venn diagram, right, that a lot of airlines have chosen to go with both the 787-8 and the -9, or the -9 and the -10. Or you can even see there with Air Canada, British Airways, United, Qatar, and ANA, they've elected to take all three aircraft because, again, it serves such a unique need and it's so efficient for their operations that they found it to be so helpful in their long-haul travel and serving their customers. To go into a bit more detail in terms of what each aircraft can do, how we view each aircraft, and how we market them to airlines. The 787, much like the 737-7, it expands opportunity in that for routes where there might be less demand, where routes might have not been served before. Again, looking at this as the route opener, the 787 can be the aircraft to do just that. On the smaller end of the wide body spectrum, in terms of how many passengers it'll have on board, but it can fly really far and it can profitably serve a lot of routes that might not otherwise have been able to be served before because they would have had to be operated at a loss. The 787, much like the 737-8, is the most versatile of the 787 Dreamliner family. It can fly even further than the 787-8 and can carry even more passengers. And so you'll see on what I was showing before in terms of who's flying the 787. The 787-9 is the most popular because of everything it can serve. We talk about the 787 as a Swiss Army knife, if you're familiar, where you have a lot of different things you can do with it, right? You have in a Swiss Army knife a toothpick, you have tweezers, you have scissors, you might have a screwdriver, a nail file. It can do so many different things. The 787 is akin to just that, where you can do a lot of long haul travel, a lot of far international routes, or you can do more regional routes that have a lot of passenger demand. But again, be able to, if you're going between a 787-8 or going down from a 787-10, find that sweet spot of being able to cater to the demand that's on those routes. And then with the 787-10, this is the aircraft where you can get the most bang for your buck with this airplane. And we say that because of how many passengers it can serve, but it can still, again, fly really far. Thinking of from North America, flying transatlantic. This is a really popular aircraft for that reason because it can efficiently fly that route where these airlines can charge higher fares. They're able to get the most amount of passengers on board this aircraft to do that while minimizing costs as much as possible. And so that's where we see the family of aircraft and the purpose each of them serve for airlines. But again, looking at this idea of it being a family of aircraft, very similar to the 737 MAX family, with the 787, you have the same engines. There's actually two different engines on the 787. The GEnx engine, as well as the Trent 1000 engine, but they're both great engines, and depending on the airline, they might choose one or the other engine. Regardless of what they choose, that engine can be on all three different models you see listed here. And then also high percentage of spare commonality as well between all the different aircraft. You have the same pilot pool between all the different aircraft as well as for the crew, and the same maintenance procedures that you would between all the aircraft as well. So because so much of this is the same, because they share so much DNA, because that fundamental architecture, the fundamental design is similar, so similar, you really get this family of aircraft where you'll see right from the broad acceptance from customers being able to go between this aircraft so seamlessly. It really simplifies their operations. They can maximize revenue. They can also minimize costs. But now I want to get into why the 787 is so innovative as a product, right? Here are big technology points that we like to hit on with the 787. I touched on the different engines that you have, but these engines really are so efficient, fuel efficient, but they have unique technological features as well. Like if you look at the chevrons, the sawtooth features on the back of the engine nacelle, that's there to actually minimize the amount of turbulent air that's exchanged from the core of the engine and the cooler air that comes around the engine from the fan in front. And because it does that, it can actually fly more efficiently and see some reduction in fuel consumption as well. But also what it does primarily is minimize its noise footprint, which is a really unique feature. Right? I mentioned how it reduces the amount of turbulent air that gets mixed at the back of the engine. Because it does that, it can actually reduce the noise that comes from the engine, thereby reducing the overall noise footprint of the aircraft itself, which is really important when thinking right about communities surrounding airports or just generally flying around, trying to minimize the amount of noise that's produced. So that's one really unique feature about the engine. But there's also a lot of advanced aerodynamics associated with this aircraft. It's the first of its kind in that it's an all-composite structure, where right traditionally aircraft are made of a metal. In most cases nowadays, it's a high-grade aluminum metal. But this aircraft is a composite, which is actually a lot lighter and more flexible than the metals that you would traditionally get. And what that enables, right, on the fuselage is we build it in a single barrel construction. And because of the unique construction and the material itself, you get a much lighter fuselage. But it doesn't just stop at the fuselage, it also extends literally to the wings and the wingtips, which are also of composite design. And so having this composite structure greatly reduces the weight of the aircraft without reducing the amount of payload it can necessarily carry. Right, so you can still carry a lot of passengers, but because it's so much lighter, the amount of how far you can actually fly with the aircraft is greatly extended, and it also has a host of additional benefits as well. This was actually a clean sheet design, right? We built it brand new from the ground up, and that's what you see with the structure of the aircraft, but it also goes to the inside of the aircraft as well with the flight deck itself. We wanted to keep a lot in common with our 777 aircraft, but there's also a lot that we know we wanted to change, like what I explained with the 737 MAX, where you have a lot more digital systems now. You have bigger displays up front to help pilots in flying the aircraft. And then you also have really innovative things like what's called a HUD, a heads-up display, where you can't quite see it in this image, but some airlines will have this HUD for their pilots. And what it is basically a glass plate in front of them, sitting right in front of the windscreen there, where when they're trying to fly the plane, look outside, right? They still want to know things like their speed and their altitude. Well, on the heads-up display, it actually shows on this glass plate without it obstructing their line of sight what some of those important speeds and altitudes and other metrics might be when again flying the airplane. So that's something that's really innovative within the cockpit. I talked about the composite weight savings, but I do want to hit on how we've built the aircraft. The single barrel construction, traditionally, how aircraft are built are in panels, but we've built this to be a single barrel, which minimizes waste and again really aids in reducing the overall weight of the aircraft, but also aids in other things as well, which won't get too into today. And then lastly, advanced integrated systems. And what I'll hit on here is something like airplane health monitoring, which can, again, digitally and more seamlessly now be able to diagnose any problems that are happening, say, with the systems or the engines on the aircraft. It's something new that traditionally we had to do manually before, that now we have in a digital system to do it again a bit more seamlessly. And so that's a lot of the outside innovations. Inside, there's a lot of innovations as well that come again from the structure of the airplane, but some advancements we've made to elevate the passenger experience. And so some things that you'll see inside the airplane are the largest windows. And because of this composite fuselage structure of the airplane, it enables us to do new things inside the airplane or on the side of the airplane. It's a lot more flexible in its design. And so because of that, we're able to increase the amount of pressure in the cabin. And what that does is actually lower the cabin altitude. So traditionally, when you're flying in, say, a metal fuselage aircraft, you're not at 35,000 feet high, but you're not at sea level either. You're at about 8,000 feet, but we've been able to reduce it to around 6,000 feet. That has, and this structure of the aircraft, again, the flexibility of it has also let us put in much larger windows. And like I said, for the 737 MAX, having the ability to connect with the outside while bringing in more natural light really eases passengers in flight. But the other thing I want to point to is because of the composite design of this aircraft, you also have increased humidity within the aircraft. And that's because, right, with metal, it has the danger of corroding. So you want to minimize humidity as much as possible. But because composite won't corrode, you can actually increase the amount of humidity in the airplane. And that's important along with having a lower cabin altitude because, right, a lot of the jet lag you may feel when traveling 12 hours plus, that can be because you get quite dehydrated in the airplane because it's really dehumidified, but also you're sitting at about 8,000 feet, right, which can have its own effects as well. Because we're able to lower that altitude and increase humidity, you feel a lot more refreshed when coming out of a very long trip. And then it has other advancements as well, such as smooth ride technology and lower noise levels. Lower noise levels are aided again by the engine design and the lower noise footprint that comes with it. Smooth ride technology, this is actually enabled by what we call a flaperon, which is between when you're looking at a wing, you have the part that's closest to the fuselage where we have the flaps that aid in taking off and landing. And then at the very end, you have ailerons, which help bank the airplane left or right. In between those, we have a flaperon that actually tries to counteract turbulence as it occurs from gusts of wind. And so that counteraction can actually minimize the amount of turbulence a passenger will feel, which again really aids in trying to help passengers feel calm and comfortable throughout the flight. And then looking at the range of the 787 family, right? This is what you would see from, say, Jakarta, where, again, can go very far throughout the world. But you'll see, to point out the 787-9 specifically, it's really impressive in that not only can it carry more passengers than the route opener that is the 787-8, but it can even fly further. And so that's why you see a strong customer acceptance with that aircraft. So plugging in a lot of what we've talked about into the path to success for an airline, on the innovation end, you get an aircraft that's up to 11% more fuel efficient, which is huge. Looking inside the airplane from a passenger preference standpoint, because of all those innovations that I pointed to in the cabin, passengers actually prefer this flying on a 787 3 times more than other comparable wide-body aircraft, which really, again, helps elevate the brand of any airline operating this aircraft. And those, along with other operating cost advantages of the aircraft, ultimately lead to a 14% lower cost advantage with the 787 family, which is truly huge for airlines. And then the last passenger product we'll look at is the 777X. From an order standpoint, this is how we have it broken down by aircraft. We'll deliver the first aircraft in 2027. We're still putting it through certification right now. But even still, without flying, there's been a lot of pre-orders for this aircraft, 624 of which from a variety of huge international airlines. Again, this is something we would show to customers because it instills a lot of confidence in an aircraft that's not yet certified yet, but when it is flying, some of the biggest airlines in the world are going to be able to take full advantage of the aircraft. But when we talk about the 777X family, what aircraft are we talking about? Two different models. We have the 777-8, which is really meant to replace our existing and in-use aircraft, the 777-300ER, which is a wide-body aircraft that's ubiquitous right now, and that a lot of airlines have it and love it because of what it can do. It's still relatively young, but it's starting to age, and by the time we bring this aircraft into service, which will be in the 2030s timeframe, right, we can start to see some of these 777-300ERs start to retire. Because airlines love it so much, we want to make sure that we have a replacement for them. But this aircraft can do even more in terms of its range. It's a more efficient aircraft, so we'll have even lower trip costs, but can still carry a lot of passengers. And then, as I mentioned, the aircraft that will start delivering in 2027 is the 777-9. This is the aircraft that we're trying to serve right now. And this aircraft should be the long-haul champion in that it can carry so many passengers. It has the greatest seat capacity in the market today. And because of that, it can be highly profitable for airlines, big airlines where they're trying to fly between or trying to fly on some of the trunk routes that I mentioned, the highly dense, high in demand passenger routes throughout the world. From an innovation standpoint, how does the 777X stack up as a product? This has a ton of advancements as well. A lot that have been proven on the 787, a lot that has been kept from the 777-300ER, which is a highly reliable aircraft, but there's still a lot of new innovation on this aircraft as well, such as the engines. These engines are massive. The GE9X will improve on the fuel efficiency of its predecessor, the GE90, but it has a host of advantages as well, and similar to the other aircraft that I showed, and you can't quite see it here, but it has that natural laminar flow nacelle that lines up well with the leading edge of the wing to, again, produce a very streamlined airflow. And one of the unique things we like to point out about the GE9X is the fact that we measure aircraft power in terms of thrust. The predecessor to the GE9X, the GE90, had 110,000 pounds of thrust to propel it forward. The GE9X actually has 105,000 pounds of thrust, less, even though it's bigger than the preceding aircraft. The reason for this is because, and despite the fact that the 777-9 is much larger, it doesn't need as much power because of a lot of the other advancements made in this aircraft, like looking at the composite wing. This ultra long wing is a composite wing build, again, proven technology from the 787 brought onto the 777X. So it's much lighter, but it's much longer. And with that, you get a much more efficient wing that can produce a lot more lift. And because of that lift it produces, the efficiency gain there, you need less thrust from the engine to be able to propel it forward in the way you need. On the wing itself, you'll see in the bottom right, we call out this folding wingtip. And this was a really creative innovation with this aircraft in particular, in that right on the ends of our wide body aircraft in particular, we typically have these raked wingtips. So on the 737, you saw a wingtip that went up and down at the end, the advanced technology winglet. The wide-body aircraft have these raked winglets to help in reducing those wingtip vortices, reduce drag on the aircraft to make it more fuel efficient. But with this wingtip, we had a problem where we didn't want to compromise on the wing design. We wanted to make it really long to get those efficiency gains, but we're restricted in that airports have different codes for the size of the aircraft itself. And so for large aircraft like the 777X, it'll typically be in a code E size category within airports. And this wing actually extends when the folding wingtip is down beyond code E, but when we fold it up, it gets back into the code E category, which is really important, again, for simplifying the operations of airlines so that they don't have to go to a larger size category and deal with some of the pains that might be caused by doing so. So yeah, a really impressive innovation where we can have the wings fold up when they're landed, but they can be extended when they take off and when they fly throughout the world to ensure we're getting as much efficiency out of these wings as possible. And then there's also things like a wider, more comfortable cabin, larger wing, or larger windows, and a lot more of other innovations that I'll cover in just a bit here. But it also benefits from a new flight deck as well, and proven by a lot of what's already been done on the 787. And so looking inside the airplane, I mentioned there just a bit ago that there's a wider cabin with this airplane that offers a more comfortable experience for passengers. And something unique about this aircraft is not only that it's a wider, more spacious cabin, but airlines actually have the option in the same airplane even to choose between different ceilings. We have ceiling A here and ceiling B. One evokes a greater sense of height in ceiling A, the other a greater sense of width. And just talking with one of my colleagues before, she mentioned that the ceiling A height could be great for, say, a business class or first class cabin, because where you're already very comfortable, you can then gain the advantage of having a higher ceiling to offer an even greater sense of space. And then maybe an economy where you have a lot of seats next to each other, being able to give passengers a sense of width space-wise can be more important. So you can have that in economy. So this is a really unique feature that we have with the 777X cabin architecture that other aircraft don't have today. But it's something that can be used to, again, elevate the passenger experience. And then from a range standpoint, with the 777-8, I mentioned its range capability right from Jakarta. You can fly all the way into the middle of North America, which is really impressive. You can cover all the African continent. You can get all the way down to Australia. It has incredible range capability. But you can do a lot of that with the 777-9 as well. It doesn't fly as far, but carries so many passengers. And this will be really important for airlines that want to generate the most amount of profit for those trunk routes, those highly dense passenger routes. And so what does the 777X look like when plugging it into the path to success? For a new innovative airplane, you can get up to 10% lower operating costs of the airplane in comparison to other wide-body models of the same size. You get a premier brand. A lot of airlines will use this airplane as its flagship, meaning not only is it the biggest, most impressive airplane, but inside the airplane you also have a ton of advancements as well, such as a much wider cabin offering a lot of space, but other things that have also been proven. Again, other aircraft such as larger windows, higher humidity, lower cabin altitude, and even things like, if you can see in this picture, what we call a starry night, where not only do you have dynamic lighting to make passengers more comfortable, but you also have these unique features to further connect them to the sky. And for airlines, right, mentioned that a big part of having these large wide-body aircraft, right, it's really important that you can have a lot of seat capacity to fly throughout the world. And with our aircraft, you can have up to 50 more seats with the 777X, which is a big advantage for the aircraft family in comparison to other models. And so that can really limit towards airlines being profitable. So that covers the portion of passenger airplanes that Boeing sells and produces today. Looking at a different market, though, the cargo market, Boeing also operates in this space. And we've been operating in this space for quite a while, also over 100 years, which I'll touch on in just a bit. But in this space, Boeing has been very dominant. And it's something we like to advertise to customers as well, because we've been doing this for so long. We have an 84% market share in the space. And it's because we really know with each generation of freighter, with each new product that we come out with, they get more and more advanced and further serve the needs of customers operating in the cargo market. But freighters in general play a really vital role in the global economy. And that's because of this interesting bit of information down here. So measuring the amount of total tonnage in global trade, freighter aircraft actually are responsible for less than 1% of total tonnage. But what's really interesting is, despite the fact that they carry such a small percentage of the amount of cargo moved, the value of that cargo is really high. 35% of the trade by value is carried via freighter aircraft. And the reason for that is because freighter aircraft, because of the ability for them to be faster than ocean, rail, and truck, maybe carry it a lot more efficiently, maybe be able to carry it in an environment that's environmentally controlled, or I should say in a fuselage that's environmentally controlled. That has its host of advantages for people trying to transport certain goods. And those goods might be things like smartphones, anything e-commerce, batteries, pharmaceuticals, livestock, animals. You probably don't want to put something like that on a very long journey. And so because of that, the value of those goods being so high, people shipping them want to make sure that they get to their destination quickly, safely, and in a good quality state as when it left their hands. I mentioned, or we talked about the history of the passenger aircraft. Well, in the same way, I talk about how Boeing's been in the freighter aircraft industry for such a long time. We've been building freighter aircraft for over a century as well. Actually, that first aircraft that I pointed out, the Boeing company built, the Model 1, that was actually designed to be able to carry mail. So our very first aircraft was actually designed to be a freighter in some ways. But ever since then, whenever we've decided to build a passenger aircraft or an aircraft in general, we've decided to optimize it for not only passenger use, but also for cargo use as well. And so you'll see there with the 707, the first jet-powered aircraft, we designed that plane to also be a cargo aircraft. 747, one of the planes I showed, that was also designed to be a freighter aircraft, and that will actually outlive the passenger variant that complements it. And then again, looking today at the 777X family, we've not only designed the 777X to be a passenger aircraft, but in that family, we've also designed a cargo area. So looking at today, what cargo aircraft Boeing has in total, starting at the very top, right? And something I should orient you all with is we talk about capacity for passenger airplanes in terms of passengers. For freighter aircraft, we talk about it in terms of total tons it can carry. That's its payload. So in the large wide body space, you'll have aircraft that are anywhere above 80 tons all the way up to 140 tons. Looking at medium wide body, that'll stretch from 40 to 80 tons. And then in standard body freighters, that goes from 0 tons up to 40 tons. So looking at large wide body freighters, we have the 777-8F, which will come approximately 2 years after the 777-9's certification. And then we have the 777F, which we're still building today. And this is actually the best-selling freighter of all time. I think it sold 364 aircraft. And we've built about 312 of them, so we still have more aircraft to produce. But then looking in medium wide bodies, we also have the 767-300F. That's a production freighter as well. That, again, we're still building today and should end production in 2027 timeframe. And then below that, you have aircraft that look a little bit different on the exterior, and that's because these are actually BCFs, Boeing converted freighters. And they're called converted freighters because they actually started their life as passenger aircraft. And at some point when an airline decided they no longer needed the aircraft use, they might have sold them, they'll convert them to be used for cargo, right? And it's not as simple as just taking out all the seats of a passenger aircraft and then putting cargo onto it. You need to make a lot of structural modifications to improve the integrity of the structure such that it can then carry this many tons of cargo, right? And so that's where Boeing Commercial Airplanes, right, the division that Najee and I are in, that's out of our purview. BGS, Boeing Global Services, actually does the modifications or does the engineering modifications for the Boeing converted freighter. The aircraft I want to highlight with you all, the freighter aircraft I want to highlight, is the 777-8F. And this aircraft brings a lot of state-of-the-art technology with it, a lot of which was already covered in the 777X portion. Right, I won't talk about the wing or the engine or the wingtip again. What I will talk about is the wide cross-section that it has. And this is really important because not only is it important to be able to carry a lot of cargo, to carry a lot of tons of cargo, it's important that you can fit all of it, right? Because some cargo might not be so heavy. So in those cases, you want to be able to ensure you can maximize the amount of space you have, or be able to make sure you can maximize it as much as possible. And then you also have really good climate control, which is interesting, right? Because why would the air conditioning in an aircraft, especially a freighter aircraft where it's just cargo, why would that be so important? Well, I mentioned some of the high-value goods that these aircraft carry. I mentioned pharmaceuticals, right? So any sort of medicine that you're transporting, that might need to be refrigerated. Then you also have other things like livestock I mentioned, or flowers, or other perishables like fruits and vegetables that, again, you want to have in a cool climate environment such that it maintains its quality from wherever it started to wherever it's getting to. Not sure why there's the features listed there, but right, when we talk about a cargo aircraft, we're no longer concerned about the interior such that it can elevate a passenger experience. We're more concerned about the interior from the standpoint, as I mentioned, of how much it can fit, what different types of cargo it can fit. So you'll see a lot of different types of cargo flowing through here, some packaged goods neatly packed, others that are more upsized, right, such as the car behind it or the big aircraft engine. or other things, right? You want to be able to carry a variety of different cargo, and with the 777X or 777-8F, we're able to do just that. Something else we like to point out is that wide fuselage, right? That's not so standard in the freighter aircraft market. Other comparable wide-body aircraft have a narrow fuselage and aren't able to fly. So again, that's why it's
Warahmatullahi
important to have that
wabarakatuh.
wide fuselage.
Terima kasih, Pak.
So how does the advantages of the 777-8F fit into the path for success of cargo airlines? Well, again, it's a little bit different for cargo airlines. They're not as concerned about comfortably bringing passengers from point A to point B. They're more concerned about how flexible their operations can be in terms of what cargo they can carry and how quickly they can load different types of cargo. And so with the 777-8F, a huge advantage of it is the amount of cargo it can carry in terms of its payload, up to 118 tons. And then from an innovative airplane design, it's up to 31% more fuel efficient than the aircraft it's meant to replace. And that ultimately can amount to a 28% lower operating cost than the airplane it's meant to produce, which is a huge cost advantage. So when this airplane ultimately flies, it will be a real game changer for many different airlines. So that covers the portion of the products that I'll talk about. One thing I do want to quickly touch on as well is the sustainability aspect of all this. So from a product viewpoint, these are some of the huge advantages of the aircraft from the 737 MAX, 787 and 787-8F. Right? It's not in making new aircraft. You saw sometimes it can be a 1 to 5 to 10% lower costs, lower fuel consumption, cost advantage, right? In the cases of emissions and reduction in fuel consumption and noise footprint, you have really large reductions with each of these aircraft. And speak to how technologically advanced they are, such that they're able to allow for a much more sustainable future going forward with each of the products. And the other thing in terms of sustainability, or I'll highlight at least, is our Eco Demonstrator program. And this is a really important program because on this 777 platform, we're able to test a lot of technology that hasn't been proven yet that can further advance sustainability features or products that go along with our aircraft to, again, enable or reduce a lot of the emissions, noise, and fuel consumption that we saw on the prior chart. And so to end, I'll just say that, right, when talking with airlines, you might have seen here that we really like to emphasize how all our aircraft meet a variety of different needs. Because they're an aircraft